Trajan, born Marcus Ulpius Trajanus on September 18, 53 CE, in the Roman colony of Italica in Hispania Baetica, rose from provincial roots to become one of Rome's most celebrated emperors. Renowned for his military genius, administrative reforms, and enduring impact on the empire, and to understand the significance of his first years as emperor, we must consider both the circumstances of his adoption by Nerva and the political environment of the Roman world in the late 1st century CE. For Trajan inherited an empire that had experienced decades of instability, beginning with the chaotic year of the four emperors in 69 CE and continuing through the Flavian dynasty, culminating in Domitian's autocratic and often cruel rule. And though Nerva had restored a degree of political stability, the empire remained tense, with a powerful senate, restless legions along the frontiers, and provinces that demanded competent leadership. And it was in this precarious environment that Trajan, at the age of 43, ascended to the throne in 98 CE, bringing with him not only military expertise, but also a reputation for integrity, discipline, and fairness that quickly earned him the respect of both soldiers and civilians. A remarkable feat considering his provincial origins in Hispania, far from the traditional centers of Roman aristocracy, and yet his upbringing in Italica, within a family of senatorial rank and strong renown. Cultural values, combined with rigorous education and early military experience under his father, prepared him to navigate the complex demands of ruling an empire that stretched from Britannia in the west to Mesopotamia in the east, and from the Rhine in the north to the sands of Africa in the south. And his early exposure to both provincial life and imperial politics allowed him to understand the needs of diverse populations, which later informed his policies as emperor, emphasizing justice, public welfare, and the well-being of Rome's soldiers, all crucial elements in the consolidation of power that would define his early reign. Trajan's ascension was also deeply influenced by Nerva's foresight, for the elderly emperor recognized that Rome required a leader who could command the loyalty of the military while maintaining a cooperative relationship with the Senate. And Trajan, already a seasoned commander with victories along the Rhine and Danube frontiers, was the ideal candidate, embodying both the qualities of a strong general and a fair-minded administrator. And his adoption marked the beginning of a novel approach to imperial succession, the adoptive principle, which prioritized merit over bloodline, setting a precedent that would define the 5 good emperors and ensure the empire's stability for decades to come. And this decision alone placed immense expectations upon Trajan, for he inherited not just the throne, but the responsibility to maintain peace, protect the provinces, and continue Rome's expansion without overextending its resources, all while winning the trust of an army that had grown accustomed to leaders who were either tyrants or conquerors. And balancing these demands required extraordinary intelligence, foresight, and political skill. In the first year of his reign, Trajan immediately focused on consolidating his authority, visiting the Senate to reaffirm their traditional powers, and establishing himself as an emperor who respected the customs and laws of Rome. A marked contrast to the excesses and despotic tendencies of Domitian, whose memory still lingered in the halls of power. Trajan's speeches and actions conveyed both strength and humility, projecting the image of a ruler who could enforce discipline yet govern with justice, earning him the support of the Senate while simultaneously securing the loyalty of the Praetorian Guard, who were reassured by the emperor's own military experience and competence. Trajan's early administration also demonstrated his commitment to public works and the welfare of Roman citizens, with initiatives that included the repair and construction of aqueducts, roads, and public buildings, as well as programs designed to provide food and financial support for the urban poor and children across Italy, policies that reflected a sophisticated understanding of the social contract between ruler and subjects and the necessity of public goodwill in ensuring the long-term stability of imperial rule. And these early efforts quickly enhanced his popularity not only in Rome, but also across the provinces where governors and local magistrates noted his interest in justice and equitable governance, earning him a reputation as both a protector of the people and a competent manager of the empire as vast resources. Militarily, Trajan's early focus was on reinforcing the frontiers, particularly along the Danube and Rhine, where Germanic tribes posed persistent threats to Rome's borders, and his presence among the legions, personally inspecting troops, reviewing fortifications, and engaging in strategic planning established him as a leader whose authority derived not only from legal succession, but also from demonstrated competence in warfare, and this combination of administrative skill, military experience, and personal charisma set the tone for the first years of his reign, ensuring that he would not be seen merely as Nerva's chosen heir, but as a ruler in his own right, capable of shaping Rome's destiny. In addition to military and administrative matters, Trajan displayed a keen interest in diplomacy, particularly with client states and neighboring kingdoms, understanding that Rome's security depended as much on alliances and loyalty as on military might. And he carefully cultivated relationships with local rulers, providing them with incentives, gifts, and recognition of their authority, while maintaining Rome's supremacy, a diplomatic strategy that prevented rebellions, secured trade routes, and enhanced the emperor's prestige. Trajan's early reign also witnessed reforms in taxation, aimed at increasing efficiency and fairness, reducing corruption among provincial officials, and ensuring that resources were available for both defense and public projects, demonstrating his holistic approach to governance, where military, economic, social, and cultural considerations were integrated into a coherent policy framework. And this approach contrasted sharply with the arbitrary and often self-serving policies of his predecessors, particularly Domitian, further solidifying his legitimacy. By the end of his first year, Trajan had established a stable government, secured the loyalty of the military, reassured the Senate, initiated key public works, and laid the foundation for both expansion and internal reform. And historians often view this period as a model of prudent statecraft, where a new ruler successfully navigates the transition of power, consolidates authority, and prepares the empire for a future of prosperity. And all of these accomplishments during Trajan's initial reign demonstrate why he is remembered not only as a conqueror of foreign lands, but as one of Rome's greatest administrators, whose early decisions shaped the empire for decades, ensuring that Rome would enter the 2nd century CE stronger, more organized, and more prosperous than ever before, with an emperor at its helm, whose vision combined the lessons of the past with the potential for unprecedented achievement, a legacy that would be solidified in subsequent campaigns, architectural marvels, and administrative reforms. But it all began in these formative years when Trajan proved himself worthy of the immense trust placed in him by Nerva, the Senate, the army, and the people of Rome, laying the groundwork for what would become the height of Roman imperial power and prestige. As Trajan entered the 2nd year of his reign, the challenges of consolidating power and proving his capability became increasingly apparent. Though he had secured the loyalty of the Senate, the army, and the Roman people through his first-year reforms, the empire was vast and diverse, stretching from the windswept frontiers of Britannia to the deserts of the Near East. Each province presented unique challenges. Some were restless due to recent rebellions. Others were economically strained, and many required diplomatic finesse to maintain stability. Trajan, well aware of the lessons from his predecessors, approached these challenges with a combination of military discipline, administrative foresight, and personal charisma that quickly distinguished him as a ruler in the mold of Augustus rather than a mere caretaker emperor. One of the most immediate concerns was the security of Rome's borders. While Domitian had strengthened parts of the empire militarily, his focus was often fragmented and reactive, leaving several regions vulnerable to incursions. Trajan recognized that a proactive strategy was essential to prevent chaos. He personally reviewed the fortifications along the Danube and Rhine rivers, meeting with provincial governors and military commanders to assess troop readiness, supply lines, and the morale of soldiers. His hands-on approach impressed the legions, who saw in him a commander who understood their challenges, shared their burdens, and valued their loyalty. Unlike emperors who relied solely on decrees from the capital, Trajan combined authority with engagement, walking among the soldiers, listening to their concerns, and offering praise where due. This personal involvement fostered a sense of unity and reinforced the legitimacy of his rule, ensuring that the army would follow his command not out of fear, as had been the case under Domitian, but out of respect. In addition to military matters, Trajan focused heavily on Rome's economic stability. The empire's vast network of provinces generated immense wealth, but corruption among tax collectors and provincial administrators often deprived the state and citizens of fair revenues. Trajan initiated a series of reforms aimed at increasing accountability. He dispatched officials to audit provincial accounts, standardized taxation systems, and introduced measures to prevent exploitation of local populations. These reforms, though technical, had profound social consequences. Farmers were less burdened by unpredictable levies. Merchants faced fewer arbitrary fees, and the public gained renewed confidence in the integrity of imperial administration. Trajan understood that economic security was foundational to political stability. Without a prosperous populace, even the most disciplined army and cooperative senate could not prevent unrest. Trajan's interest in public welfare extended beyond economics. He expanded programs for orphans and poor children, ensuring access to food, education, and basic necessities, particularly in Rome and other urban centers. The alimenta system, a charitable program that provided support for children and young adults, became a hallmark of his reign, demonstrating his commitment to civic responsibility and the long-term health of the empire. Unlike some rulers who sought glory through monumental monuments or military conquest alone, Trajan balanced ambition with tangible improvements to the lives of ordinary citizens, creating a legacy that combined practical governance with inspirational leadership. Diplomacy also played a critical role during Trajan's early reign. The empire's eastern frontier, particularly regions bordering Parthia, remained a delicate area where missteps could provoke war. Trajan's approach combined firmness with careful negotiation. He respected client kings who were loyal, offered incentives for cooperation, and maintained military readiness as a deterrent rather than an immediate threat. His ability to navigate this complex diplomatic landscape reflected both his intelligence and his understanding of Rome's strategic position in the world. By stabilizing relationships in the East, Trajan ensured that the empire's focus could later turn to expansion, trade, and internal consolidation, laying the groundwork for future campaigns that would define his historical legacy. Trajan also paid attention to cultural and architectural achievements, understanding that public works served not only practical purposes, but also symbolic ones. Roads, aqueducts, and public buildings were repaired and expanded, facilitating communication, trade, and governance throughout the empire. The construction of new forums and temples in Rome emphasized the emperor's role as both a civic leader and a guardian of Roman tradition. These projects reinforced the idea that Trajan was a ruler who cared deeply for the welfare and prestige of Rome itself, rather than merely pursuing personal glory. Perhaps most importantly during this period, Trajan began preparing for one of the defining aspects of his reign, military expansion. While consolidating internal stability, he recognized that the empire's strength depended on both defense and strategic conquest. The first campaign plans, though still in the preliminary stages, focused on Dacia, a region north of the Danube, known for its wealth in gold and its occasional rebellious activities. Trajan's interest in Dacia was motivated by both economic and security concerns. By bringing this region under direct Roman control, he could secure the Danube frontier and ensure a steady influx of resources to fund public works and military operations simultaneously bolstering the empire's economy and the loyalty of his troops. Trajan's personal qualities during these years also played a crucial role in consolidating his authority. Unlike rulers who relied on intimidation or favoritism, he demonstrated humility, fairness, and a willingness to listen. Senators and provincial governors reported that he valued counsel, rewarded merit, and avoided arbitrary punishment. Soldiers admired his courage and presence on the field. Citizens appreciated the tangible improvements to infrastructure, social welfare, and economic fairness. This combination of respect for tradition, administrative skill, and personal charisma helped Trajan forge a reign built on legitimacy rather than fear, ensuring a level of stability that few emperors could achieve in the first decades of imperial Rome. At the same time, Trajan faced subtle but persistent challenges. Not all provinces were uniformly loyal. Some regions retained resentment over previous taxation or heavy-handed governance. The army, though largely supportive, included factions that remained loyal to older commanders or suspicious of a provincial-born emperor. The Senate, while outwardly cooperative, occasionally questioned his decisions, particularly regarding military initiatives and financial allocations. Trajan addressed these challenges through a combination of transparency, careful planning, and decisive action, ensuring that potential opposition did not escalate into rebellion or unrest. Education and personal development also influenced Trajan's approach to leadership. Trained in rhetoric, law, and military strategy, he blended intellectual discipline with practical experience, allowing him to analyze complex problems and implement solutions that balanced multiple priorities. He often consulted historians, engineers, and provincial administrators before initiating major reforms or campaigns, demonstrating a meticulous attention to detail and a respect for expertise. This analytical approach contributed not only to the efficiency of his governance, but also to the empire's long-term stability, as decisions were based on careful study rather than impulsive ambition. By the end of his second year, Trajan had transformed Rome's perception of imperial power. He was no longer merely the adopted heir of Nerva. He was an independent ruler capable of balancing military might, administrative efficiency, public welfare, and strategic vision. His early campaigns along the Danube secured the northern frontier. His reforms strengthened the economy and governance, and his public works inspired loyalty and admiration among citizens. Trajan's ability to integrate these diverse aspects of leadership established him as a model of the Roman emperor, combining qualities of the general administrator and civic benefactor in a way that would define the height of imperial Rome. In this phase, the foundation was set for future expansion, particularly the Dacian campaigns that would later cement Trajan's reputation as a military genius. However, even before embarking on these conquests, the internal consolidation of power, economic stability, and social programs demonstrated a holistic approach to leadership, showing that military success alone could not define a ruler. The emperor must also govern wisely, protect citizens, and maintain the loyalty of both Senate and army. Trajan's success in achieving this balance during his early years set a precedent for his successors and contributed to the era of prosperity and stability known as the Pax Romana. Thus, Trajan's second-year reign reflects a period of strategic preparation, consolidation, and visionary planning, during which the emperor demonstrated remarkable foresight and skill, laying the groundwork for military, administrative, and social achievements that would define his legacy. By balancing military readiness, economic reform, social welfare, and diplomatic skill, Trajan ensured that the Roman Empire entered the next phase of its expansion under a leader capable of both conquest and governance, a combination rarely seen in the history of ancient Rome, and one that would earn him enduring recognition as one of the empire's greatest emperors. As Trajan's reign progressed into the third phase, his attention increasingly turned toward expansion and the military campaigns that would define his historical legacy. Though his early years had focused on consolidating power, stabilizing the provinces, and implementing administrative reforms, Trajan understood that the security and prosperity of the Roman Empire depended on a strong frontier and a steady influx of wealth, particularly from regions rich in resources. The northern territories beyond the Danube, including Dacia, presented both a threat and an opportunity. The Dacians, under the leadership of King Decebalus, had long resisted Roman domination, and their raids along the frontier disrupted trade, threatened Roman allies, and demanded frequent military responses. At the same time, Dacia was rich in gold, silver, and fertile land, offering a potential economic boon for Rome if brought under control. Trajan recognized that conquest, if conducted skillfully, could simultaneously secure the empire's borders and fund future public works, military salaries, and social programs, thus reinforcing his broader strategy of integrating military, economic, and administrative policy. In preparation for the Dacian campaigns, Trajan personally oversaw the training, provisioning, and organization of the legions stationed along the Danube. Unlike many emperors who relied solely on generals or local commanders, he took a hands-on approach, personally reviewing battle plans, inspecting fortifications, and assessing logistical needs. Trajan's military leadership style emphasized discipline, morale, and adaptability. He understood that the loyalty of the troops depended not only on pay and material support, but also on their confidence in his competence as a commander. Soldiers reported that he was present in the field, approachable yet commanding, and willing to endure the hardships alongside them. This direct engagement with the army reinforced their allegiance and ensured that any future campaigns would be executed with precision and coordination. At the same time, Trajan balanced the demands of military preparation with domestic administration. While planning for war, he continued to oversee economic reforms, ensuring that provincial taxes were collected fairly and efficiently, and that local governors acted justly in the provinces. Infrastructure projects continued, including the construction and repair of roads, bridges, aqueducts, and public buildings, which facilitated military movements, as well as trade and communication across the empire. The emphasis on infrastructure served a dual purpose. It improved the daily lives of citizens and reinforced the strategic mobility of Roman forces, demonstrating Trajan's understanding of the interconnectedness of governance, economy, and military power. Trajan also expanded the alimenta system, providing support to poor children and orphans in various regions of Italy and beyond. By ensuring that the younger generation received food, education, and financial support, he strengthened the social fabric of the empire and reinforced loyalty among the population. These programs also served as subtle propaganda, portraying the emperor as a benevolent guardian of Roman citizens, a stark contrast to the tyranny and fear that characterized the reign of Domitian, and enhancing Trajan's popularity across the empire. Diplomacy remained a key focus during this period. While preparing for campaigns in Dacia, Trajan sought to maintain peaceful relations with neighboring kingdoms and client states, particularly those in the east. By respecting their sovereignty, offering incentives for cooperation, and demonstrating military capability as a deterrent, Trajan ensured that potential threats could be neutralized without immediate conflict, thereby allowing Rome to focus its resources on strategically significant objectives. His diplomatic acumen ensured that Rome's attention could be concentrated on expansion rather than constant defense, a strategy that would pay dividends in the years to come. The preparations for the Dacian Wars were extensive and meticulous. Trajan organized multiple legions, coordinated supply chains, and developed detailed strategies for river crossings, sieges, and battlefield maneuvers. The logistical challenge of moving large numbers of troops and equipment across rivers and mountainous terrain required careful planning, and Trajan's attention to detail ensured that these operations were executed with efficiency and precision. He also employed engineers, architects, and local guides to construct bridges, roads, and fortifications that would support both military operations and long-term occupation of conquered territories. This integration of military planning with engineering and infrastructure development highlighted Trajan's holistic approach to leadership and governance. As campaigns commenced, Trajan demonstrated remarkable strategic insight. He combined offensive operations with defensive precautions, ensuring that Roman forces could exploit weaknesses in Dacian defenses while protecting supply lines and vulnerable positions. Battles were fought with discipline, coordination, and adaptability, and Trajan's personal presence on the field inspired confidence and morale among the troops. The initial confrontations with Dacian forces tested his leadership, but his careful planning, understanding of terrain, and ability to motivate and direct his soldiers resulted in decisive victories, gradually weakening Dacian resistance and establishing Roman dominance in the region. Trajan's conquests were not purely military in nature. They also incorporated political and economic considerations. Conquered territories were carefully integrated into the empire, with local leaders often co-opted into administrative roles to ensure stability and continuity. Roman infrastructure projects, including roads, fortresses, and public buildings, were implemented to secure control and facilitate governance. These efforts not only solidified Roman authority, but also demonstrated the benefits of imperial rule to local populations, fostering loyalty and reducing the likelihood of rebellion. Cultural and symbolic achievements accompanied military successes. Trajan commissioned monuments, temples, and forums to celebrate victories and commemorate the empire's expansion. These projects, including the famed Trajan's Column in Rome, were both propaganda and historical record, illustrating his campaigns in vivid detail and reinforcing his image as a victorious, capable, and just ruler. Such monuments served to inspire both citizens and soldiers, emphasizing the continuity of Roman strength and the emperor's role as a guardian of Rome's destiny. The Dacian Wars also highlighted Trajan's administrative skills in managing conquered territories. He implemented systems of taxation, land distribution, and local governance designed to integrate Dacia into the empire efficiently. Roman law was introduced, fortifications were strengthened, and cities were rebuilt to facilitate trade and military logistics. These measures ensured that Roman control was not temporary but sustainable, and they reflected Trajan's understanding that military conquest was only one aspect of empire building. Lasting success required effective governance, economic integration, and cultural assimilation. Trajan's leadership style during these campaigns combined courage, intelligence, and compassion. He was known to personally address grievances of soldiers, redistribute spoils fairly, and reward valor, fostering loyalty and morale. At the same time, he maintained strict discipline, ensuring that the legions operated under clear command structures and adhered to Roman military standards. This balance of authority and empathy became a defining feature of his reign, illustrating how personal qualities of leadership could complement administrative and strategic competence. Meanwhile, Trajan maintained attention to Rome itself, ensuring that public works, civic programs, and economic policies continued despite military focus abroad. Roads and aqueducts were extended, marketplaces and forums improved, and cultural events sponsored, reflecting his commitment to the capital and its citizens. By managing domestic affairs alongside military campaigns, Trajan reinforced the perception of a capable and attentive emperor, one who could simultaneously safeguard the empire, govern its people, and extend its boundaries. Trajan's third-year policies also emphasized succession planning and institutional stability. He continued to engage the Senate in decision-making, consult military advisors, and incorporate the expertise of provincial administrators, creating a system of governance that balanced central authority with delegated responsibility. This inclusive approach strengthened Rome's administrative cohesion, reduced internal conflict, and established precedents for future emperors, further solidifying Trajan's reputation as both a military genius and an astute statesman. The successes of the Dacian campaigns, combined with domestic and administrative reforms, marked this period as a turning point in Trajan's reign. By the end of the third year, he had achieved a remarkable integration of military conquest, economic stability, social welfare, and infrastructural development. The empire was secure, the legions loyal, the Senate cooperative, and the people supportive, all testifying to Trajan's skill in uniting diverse elements of Roman governance under a single effective vision. This period laid the groundwork for further expansion, particularly in the East, and solidified the foundations of what historians would later describe as Rome's greatest era, characterized by territorial growth, civic prosperity, and political stability. As Trajan's reign progressed into the fourth phase, the emperor turned his focus to consolidating Rome's gains and preparing for one of the most ambitious campaigns of his career, the expansion into the Parthian territories in the east. Following the successful conclusion of the Dacian Wars, which had brought immense wealth to the empire, through the acquisition of gold mines, land, and resources, Trajan now faced a new set of challenges: securing the eastern frontier, managing client kingdoms, and asserting Roman authority over territories that had long resisted imperial influence. This stage of Trajan's rule showcased his unique combination of military genius, administrative acumen, and strategic foresight as he sought to extend Rome's borders while maintaining internal stability. The eastern frontier had long been a source of tension for the empire. The Parthian Empire, a powerful state controlling Mesopotamia and surrounding regions, had historically posed a threat to Roman interests, engaging in intermittent warfare and diplomacy with Rome over contested territories. Trajan, aware of the delicate balance of power, recognized that a direct military campaign in the east required meticulous planning, careful logistics, and diplomatic groundwork to prevent unnecessary resistance or rebellion among client kingdoms. Before launching military operations, he strengthened alliances with neighboring rulers, offering incentives such as gifts, recognition of local authority, and guarantees of autonomy under Roman oversight. This strategic diplomacy ensured that Rome's eastern campaigns would not be fought in isolation, but with the cooperation or neutrality of key regional powers, minimizing the risk of a widespread conflict. Simultaneously, Trajan focused on the logistical and military preparations necessary for the campaign. Unlike many emperors who relied solely on generals, he personally supervised the organization of legions, the movement of supplies, and the construction of roads, bridges, and fortifications. Engineers and architects were deployed to facilitate river crossings and the transport of heavy equipment, while detailed intelligence was gathered on Parthian territories, terrain, and military capabilities. Trajan's attention to detail and direct involvement in planning set a standard for military leadership, demonstrating that successful campaigns required not only bravery, but also precise coordination, foresight, and adaptability. Trajan's campaigns in the east were marked by a combination of rapid offensive maneuvers and strategic occupation. He advanced into Mesopotamia, capturing key cities and fortresses, and established Roman administrative centers to ensure control over newly conquered territories. Trajan's approach balanced military force with political integration, as local leaders were often retained in positions of authority under Roman oversight, and newly acquired lands were incorporated into the empire's taxation and legal systems. This strategy minimized resistance, facilitated long-term governance, and demonstrated Trajan's understanding that the durability of empire relied as much on administration as on conquest. While engaged in military operations, Trajan did not neglect the domestic affairs of Rome. Public works continued unabated, with aqueducts, roads, and civic buildings constructed to support trade, communication, and infrastructure. Social programs such as the alimenta system were expanded, providing food, education, and financial support to children in need. By maintaining attention to Rome's urban centers and the welfare of its citizens, Trajan reinforced the perception of an emperor who governed with balance. Attending to both the needs of the provinces and the capital, and ensuring that military campaigns did not come at the expense of public well-being. The Parthian campaign also illustrated Trajan's strategic innovation, recognizing the limitations of overextended supply lines and the challenges of operating in unfamiliar terrain. He implemented careful staging of forces, used temporary forts and supply depots, and relied on detailed reconnaissance. Battles were fought with discipline, tactical flexibility, and precise coordination, resulting in a series of victories that extended Roman influence deep into Mesopotamia. Trajan's ability to adapt to changing conditions on the battlefield, combined with his knowledge of logistics and terrain, contributed to the success of these operations and enhanced his reputation as a commander capable of achieving ambitious objectives. Beyond military and administrative concerns, Trajan's fourth-year reign also emphasized cultural, architectural, and symbolic achievements. Triumphal arches, monuments, and public spaces were commissioned to celebrate victories and commemorate Roman authority, serving both as propaganda and as a testament to Rome's enduring power. Among the most iconic constructions was Trajan's Forum, an architectural masterpiece in Rome that combined administrative, religious, and commercial functions, reflecting the emperor's vision of an integrated, prosperous, and orderly society. These projects reinforced the legitimacy of Trajan's rule, inspired loyalty among citizens, and symbolized the strength and sophistication of the Roman state. Trajan's leadership style during this period continued to combine firmness with empathy. He rewarded valor and loyalty among his troops, administered justice fairly in conquered regions, and engaged with provincial governors and local leaders to ensure effective governance. His attention to fairness and competence created a culture of trust and loyalty, reducing the likelihood of rebellion and internal dissent, and allowing the empire to operate with a level of cohesion rarely seen in Roman history. The combination of military prowess, administrative skill, and personal charisma positioned Trajan as a ruler whose authority was recognized and respected throughout the empire. Economically, the wealth acquired through conquest allowed Trajan to implement additional public works, fund social programs, and stabilize the imperial treasury. Gold and silver from Dacia and Mesopotamia funded infrastructure projects, roads, aqueducts, and public buildings, which in turn facilitated trade and reinforced the empire's logistical capabilities. This cycle of military success, economic gain, and social investment exemplified Trajan's holistic approach to leadership, demonstrating how conquest, governance, and public welfare could be integrated into a sustainable model of imperial power. The administrative integration of conquered territories also reinforced Rome's legal and institutional systems. Trajan extended Roman law, established provincial governance structures, and ensured that taxation was collected efficiently and fairly. By providing continuity and stability in newly acquired regions, he fostered loyalty among local populations and minimized resistance, illustrating his understanding that the durability of empire required more than military victories. It demanded effective governance and the equitable application of law. Trajan's fourth-year reign also highlighted the importance of succession planning and institutional stability. He continued to engage the Senate, military advisors, and provincial administrators in decision-making, ensuring that power was balanced and that governance was sustainable beyond his immediate control. This inclusive approach reduced internal conflict, strengthened administrative cohesion, and created a framework for continuity, setting an example for future emperors. By the end of this period, Trajan had successfully expanded Rome's boundaries, consolidated newly acquired territories, stabilized internal governance, and enhanced the empire's economic and social infrastructure. The combination of military conquest, administrative competence, public works, and strategic diplomacy exemplified Trajan's unique approach to leadership, balancing the demands of expansion with the necessities of governance and the welfare of citizens. These achievements not only secured his reputation as one of Rome's greatest emperors, but also established a model of imperial rule that emphasized competence, foresight, and the integration of multiple aspects of governance. Trajan's legacy in this phase extended beyond immediate victories and territorial gains. By demonstrating that military conquest could be harmonized with administrative reform, public welfare, and cultural investment, he established principles of governance that would influence the empire for decades. His ability to manage complex logistics, maintain the loyalty of soldiers, engage with provincial and local leaders, and prioritize public works created a durable framework for Roman authority, illustrating the interconnectedness of power, administration, and civic responsibility. The successes of this period also set the stage for future expansion, particularly campaigns in Arabia and further into the Parthian territories. Trajan's strategic vision combined ambition with prudence, ensuring that expansion did not compromise stability, that military achievements were reinforced by administrative integration, and that the emperor's personal presence and leadership inspired loyalty and confidence. This holistic approach to rule, integrating conquest, governance, and public welfare, became a defining feature of Trajan's reign and contributed to his enduring reputation as a model of Roman imperial leadership. As Trajan's reign entered its final and most celebrated phase, his vision for Rome had expanded from consolidation and reform to an era of unprecedented achievement, encompassing military conquest, civic prosperity, architectural grandeur, and administrative excellence. The achievements of the Dacian Wars and the Eastern campaigns against Parthia had already solidified his reputation as a brilliant military strategist. But Trajan's attention now turned to the long-term sustainability of the empire, ensuring that the territories he had acquired were securely integrated, that economic stability was maintained, and that Rome itself reflected the glory and power of his rule. This period is often regarded as the zenith of Trajan's reign, an era in which his foresight, leadership, and vision combined to create a model of imperial governance that would influence generations of emperors. The integration of conquered territories became a central focus. In Dacia, Mesopotamia, and other newly annexed regions, Trajan established provincial administrations designed to ensure both security and prosperity. Roman law was extended, taxation systems standardized, and infrastructure roads, aqueducts, and public buildings was rapidly developed to facilitate governance, trade, and military mobility. By co-opting local leaders and incorporating them into the administrative hierarchy, Trajan reduced the likelihood of rebellion, while simultaneously ensuring that the local population had a stake in the stability and success of Roman rule. This approach illustrated a profound understanding of the relationship between military, conquest, and civil administration. Victory on the battlefield was only meaningful if followed by effective governance, public services, and legal oversight. Economically, the resources captured through conquest provided a remarkable influx of wealth. Gold and silver from Dacia funded additional public works, while fertile lands in the east increased agricultural output. Trajan utilized these resources judiciously, investing in infrastructure, military readiness, and social programs while avoiding excessive taxation or exploitation. The expansion of the alimentus system continued, providing support for children, orphans, and families in need, reinforcing public loyalty and demonstrating that imperial success could translate into tangible improvements in daily life. Trajan's economic policies reflected a holistic approach to governance. Wealth generated through conquest was reinvested into the empire to strengthen both its material foundations and the social contract between ruler and citizen. Military preparedness remained a constant priority. Even after decisive victories, Trajan continued to inspect legions, review training, and strengthen frontier fortifications. He understood that the stability of the empire depended not only on conquest, but also on maintaining discipline, morale, and readiness among troops. His personal presence among the soldiers, combined with fair treatment, recognition of merit, and strict adherence to Roman military standards, fostered loyalty and cohesion, ensuring that the empire's armed forces could respond effectively to both internal and external threats. The campaigns of this period also demonstrated Trajan as innovative strategic thinking. He adapted tactics to terrain, climate, and the strengths and weaknesses of opposing forces, combining siege warfare, direct engagement, and defensive fortifications to achieve sustainable victories. Architectural and cultural achievements were central to Trajan's vision of imperial greatness. In Rome, he completed monumental projects including Trajan's Forum, Trajan's Market, and the iconic Trajan's Column, which commemorated the Dacian Wars in intricate relief. These constructions were not merely celebratory. They served administrative, commercial, and symbolic functions, reinforcing Rome's position as the heart of the empire and illustrating the interconnectedness of military success, civic infrastructure, and cultural prestige. Trajan's buildings reflected both practical governance and an awareness of the power of symbolism. Architecture became a testament to the strength, discipline, and sophistication of the empire, inspiring pride among citizens and respect from allies and adversaries alike. Trajan's eastern campaigns, particularly in Mesopotamia and against the Parthians, highlighted his ability to balance ambition with prudence. While his forces achieved significant territorial gains, he carefully managed local populations, co-opting existing leaders, implementing fair taxation, and extending Roman legal and administrative systems. This integration reduced resistance, ensured the loyalty of new provinces, and reinforced the durability of Roman authority. Trajan's ability to combine military conquest with diplomatic finesse, administrative skill, and economic planning exemplifies his holistic approach to leadership, demonstrating that enduring imperial success requires more than battlefield victories. It requires sustainable governance and strategic vision. During this period, Trajan also emphasized the role of the Senate and the broader administrative apparatus. He consulted senators on key policies, incorporated their expertise in provincial administration, and maintained a balance between central authority and delegated governance. This inclusive approach strengthened political cohesion, reduced potential sources of conflict, and ensured that the empire's administration operated efficiently. Trajan's relationship with the Senate reflected both respect for tradition and pragmatic governance. By involving Rome's political elite, he reinforced legitimacy while ensuring that decision-making remained effective across the vast territories of the empire. Public welfare continued to be a hallmark of Trajan's reign. Food distribution, infrastructure improvements, and educational programs were sustained and expanded. By attending to the needs of the population, he fostered loyalty and civic engagement, ensuring that the people of Rome and its provinces viewed the emperor as a protector and benefactor rather than a distant autocrat. This attention to social stability complemented military and economic achievements, creating a comprehensive model of leadership in which conquest, governance, and public welfare were mutually reinforcing. Trajan's final campaigns were characterized by both ambition and careful planning. He sought to extend Roman influence further into the east, including campaigns into Armenia, Mesopotamia, and territories along the Persian frontier. These operations demonstrated his strategic foresight, logistical skill, and adaptability as he coordinated complex troop movements, supply chains, and fortifications across challenging terrain. Success in these campaigns not only enhanced Rome's territorial holdings, but also reinforced Trajan's reputation as a commander capable of executing grand designs with precision and discipline. Even as military campaigns progressed, Trajan maintained focus on Rome's cultural and civic life. Monuments, forums, temples, and public buildings reflected the values of the empire, celebrated military achievements, and provided functional spaces for governance, commerce, and social activity. Trajan's attention to architecture and urban planning demonstrated an understanding of the symbolic power of the built environment. By investing in monumental projects, he projected the strength, stability, and sophistication of Roman authority to citizens, visitors, and potential adversaries alike. Trajan's reign also emphasized the integration of knowledge and expertise into governance. He consulted engineers, architects, military advisors, provincial administrators, and historians to inform decisions, ensuring that policies were evidence-based, practical, and effective. This approach strengthened the administrative capacity of the empire, enhanced military effectiveness, and ensured that public works and governance initiatives were executed efficiently and sustainably. Trajan's reliance on expertise exemplified a forward-looking leadership style, balancing personal authority with institutional capacity and fostering a culture of competence and professionalism. By the end of this final phase, Trajan had transformed the Roman Empire into a highly organized, prosperous, and territorially expansive state. His achievements encompassed military conquest, administrative reform, economic stability, social welfare, and monumental architecture. Soldiers were loyal, the Senate was cooperative, citizens were supported, and the provinces were integrated into a coherent system of governance. Trajan's holistic approach, combining strategy, administration, diplomacy, and civic responsibility, established him as one of the greatest emperors in Roman history, whose vision and leadership set a standard for subsequent rulers and defined an era of unprecedented prosperity. Trajan's legacy extended far beyond his lifetime. His military campaigns secured Rome's borders and expanded the empire's resources. His administrative reforms strengthened governance and institutional capacity. His public works improved infrastructure, trade, and civic life. And his cultural and architectural achievements symbolized the enduring power and sophistication of Rome. Through careful planning, strategic vision, and effective leadership, Trajan demonstrated that empire building requires more than conquest. It demands foresight, prudence, and an understanding of the interconnectedness of military, political, economic, and social factors. In the final analysis, Trajan's reign represents a model of balanced imperial governance. Military success, economic stability, administrative efficiency, public welfare, and cultural achievement were integrated into a coherent vision that strengthened the Roman Empire for generations. Trajan's ability to combine personal leadership, strategic foresight, and institutional capacity created a durable foundation for imperial authority, illustrating the qualities that define truly exceptional rulers: courage, intelligence, foresight, fairness, and a commitment to the welfare of the people and the stability of the state. His reign stands as a testament to what can be achieved when ambition is tempered by prudence, and when the exercise of power is guided by vision, discipline, and concern for the common good.